Hello and welcome to the Critically Curious. I'm Monk, and today, yes, we are in Age of Mythology Retold. We're doing another guide video for a god. Today's god is going to be Isis. Now, the Egyptians are a fantastic race, but they probably have the highest learning curve out of all of the races. So we're going to be talking about Isis and what makes them so good. Now, the Egyptians in general are a very, very good and strong race, but in my opinion, Isis is great for multiplayer because she kind of has a bit of a superpower against it. First of all, let's understand Isis' passive abilities. Now, she focuses on technology. The town centers and citadel centers sport an extra 5% population, meaning she probably is going to have the biggest march size on the map. Normal march size at least. Monuments shield against god powers, which is amazing. If you sort them out, it really defends you, acts as a little shield. We will be talking about that. You can also empower monuments. Empowered monuments heal nearby units for a decent range as well. Technologies also cost 10% less, and obelisks cost 5 or minus 5 gold. And are built 60% faster. Now, there's a lot to break down there, but for me, it's the passive ability of having a bigger march size, bigger population, and being able to create a shield against god powers that are the take-home. Now, early game, Isis has prosperity, which is actually really great. You can target anywhere to make all your villages and trade caravans gather gold quicker. Now, one of the downfall about the Egyptians is you're going to be needing a lot of gold. So the more gold you manage to get early in the game, the better for you. Now, the other ability you get very early on is Flood of the Nile. Isis ensures the continued fertility of your lands, generating a steady trickle of food. It adds 1 food trickle rate to your game, which can be a little bit of a help. Now, at age 2, you get the choice between Bast or Anubis. Both of them are good options. Now, with Bast, you get Eclipse, which turns day to night. Now, what this does is improves the ability of your myth units and generates favor faster with your monuments. You also get access to the Sphinx, which is a pretty decent myth unit. Once you learn Sacred Cats, your villagers' work rate improves massively at gathering food. The next will enable your villagers to gather wood faster as well. And the last two buff up your Sphinx. Ultimately, Best is a great way to improve your economy, and you can double that down with the fact that Isis already has prosperity, which increases your gold gather rate too, meaning economy-wise, you're going to be fitting in pretty well. However, I actually prefer Anubis. Now, Plague of Serpents really isn't very strong at all. It does summon some snakes that are good against soldiers, but honestly, it's very weak. We do also get access to the Jackal, or the Anubite, which is a really good myth unit, very fast, great against humans, and ultimately my favorite option out of these early myth units. You also get access to Serpent Spear, which buffs up your troops with spears. And lastly, you get the ability to buff up your Faith gather rate by 25%, and that's permanent. Age 2 is where I believe the hardest pick comes in. Now, with Hathor, you actually get access to Locust Swarm, which is great against farms. You get a rock, which can carry units around the map, meaning you can veto water. You also get a Crocodile, a myth unit with a bejeweled focus laser that is just great against human soldiers. You also get the ability to buff him up as well, making him a little bit stronger. You get sun-dried mud rocks or brick, which increases the building hit points, minus the gold cost, and minus building time, as well as reducing the gate build time. You'll also get the ability to buff up camel riders and your caravans. Honestly, this is my go-to when it comes to Age 2. Alternatively, you could go and get Ancestors, which awakens ancestral soldiers or ships to fight for a short period of time. It is only a few minutes, but it does summon a decent amount to help you out. Really only good against soldiers. You also get access to a Scorpion Man, which I think is awesome. A great myth unit, real tanky. Has the ability to poison enemies as well. Not to mention, you get the ability to get funeral rites, which essentially gives you more gold, because you're going to be having a lot of units die in the course of your game. You get gold back for their death. Now, as the Egyptians, you get a pharaoh and priest. These can heal, and you get the ability to increase their healing rate, as well as buffing up their attack damage as well. Now, we do get Funeral Barge, which has a chance of having war barges spawn a Leviathan, but it's very slim. In Age 4, it gets a little bit tricky again. You can pick Osiris or Hoth. Now, Osiris, you get Sons of Osiris, in which you get to target your pharaoh and transform him into a super empowered lightning wielding demigod. You also get access to mummies. These things are actually really decent range units. They're myth, they are a bit tanky as well. With Desert Winds, you can also buff up your Camel Riders once again, increasing their hit points and their attack. You get a new kingdom in order to have not one but two pharaohs, and then you can also buff up your mummies as well. Alternatively, you could go with Hoth, get access to Meteor, and just devastate bases on a win. And if that isn't good enough for you, you also get the Phoenix. Now, the Phoenix can be used with Meteor. You can scout with a Phoenix and then use Meteor, which is just a great combination. But Phoenix is possibly the second best flying unit in the game. Now, I haven't had much luck with Valley of the Kings to get a chance to get a double unit when empowered. But one of my favorite upgrades is Book of Hoth, in which you empower your villagers and give them just a general buff. And lastly, we also get a chance to empower or buff up our elephant units, which are just a very, very powerful Egyptian unit. Now, one thing of note with the Egyptians is that most of the buildings you can actually build for no resources. Houses, for instance, right off the bat, you could build all 16 to get your population up. A lot of the buildings are going to be this way, where they don't cost any resources. If they do cost resources, they're probably going to be costing you gold. Now, with the Egyptians, we do use laborers. It's 50 meat for one laborer, and you can have 100 of them and be working for you. As you can see, the main benefit here is the fact that most of the early buildings are all completely free. Now, it's the monuments that are going to be costing the most amount of resource, especially early game. Now, the laborers do actually have a stationary drop-off point. Obviously, the town center works, but you're going to be having to build little resource houses. It's going to be there that you're going to be able to level up the technologies. Perhaps one of the most frustrating things about Isis is that her priests do not auto-scout. Now, all priests can build obelisks, which is kind of interesting. They only cost 10 gold, and it provides you a line of sight, which is pretty decent if you get the time to build enough of them. It's also your priests that are going to be collecting all of those artifacts. It is an upgrade option, but it is going to be worth getting. Now, we mentioned that priests can heal. Your pharaohs can heal too, and your pharaohs are the most powerful unit you have. They have a great attack, not much health, but they can empower. It empowers a building to generate gold faster, generate wood faster, or the collection of it faster. Or, of course, it can also generate faith faster, as well as extend you through to the next age faster too. Empowering buildings and remembering to use empower is so important. If you don't want to mess around with it, I would recommend just get them on an obelisk and get that extra faith coming in. Now, earlier in the video, we mentioned the rocks. They are amazing flying units. Not only are they flying units, which yes, you could use as a scout unit, they are slow, however, but they're transport units. You can pick up whoever you want and put them anywhere on the map. It's simply X to get them to move. You highlight your unit, press X on the rock, and here land, there join on. If you want to empty it, you just hold X wherever you want it to dump out. Now, obviously, X is for console players. Now, the Egyptians also have access to mercenaries. This is an interesting unit. Mercenaries seem to be very unique to the Egyptians. It's a unit that you have for a very limited amount of time. They train very, very quickly. But as soon as they are trained, their health is depleting. Honestly, these are great defense units if you have the money to use them. I typically don't because I feel like they are so expensive. But really good little units if you need a little bit of backup. Now, I believe you get 5 monuments total. Each one of them is unique and different and costs an increased amount of resources as you go on. Take your time with placement on them because they're really important and a great asset. Now, the Scorpion Men are a really interesting unit. They have a decent amount of health, a good attack, and most interestingly, they cost wood to make. Obviously, you're going to need faith for it as it's a myth unit, but the fact that it costs wood, I think makes this unit just a little bit better. Now, although the camel archers are really good, especially as you can buff them up quite considerably with a few different technologies, it's the elephants that I think get me out of more stick. The elephants are very powerful, good tanks, good attack, and they're not too expensive to train either. The Egyptians also have access to decent walls and towers too, so if you need to be defensive, you do have that option. Now, as much as I love Meteor, and I will be showing that off later, there's something pretty awesome about the Sons of Osiris. Having a unit that literally shoots laser is just pretty sick. It has a mad attack. It, for me, doesn't have enough health. But if you do go down the route of the Sons of Osiris, you do get access to the mummies, and I really like these things. Now, undoubtedly, one of the best units the Egyptians have are the Phoenix. There are myth units, they've got a decent health, a great attack, and they can fly. Also, if they die, they drop an egg in which it can rebirth another Phoenix, which again is just really, really powerful. Now, I typically use flying units to scouts. That way, when I've got a superpower like Meteor, I can use it on enemy cities really, really easily. And of course, the Phoenix just help with that. Not only can they scout, but they can also do some mad damage to buildings, myth units, and soldiers. Now, Meteor may not be the strongest god power, but it is one of the strongest god powers. It can devastate buildings, and if used correctly, if used with enough faith, in other words, you can rinse and repeat it, it can be devastating. But there we have it, guys. That is my guide to Isis and the Egyptians. Let me know down in the comments if you have any tips for anyone wanting to play as this race. What would you do differently? And of course, what is your favorite race going forward? We also have an active and growing Discord. It'd be great to get more people in the Discord so we can do some more multiplayer matches. But until next time, I've been a monk, we've been Inquisitor Curious, and I will see you in the next video real soon. Until then, take it easy and happy gaming.